In this video, I'm going to use Microsoft Power Apps to build an online form that interacts with the fact and dimension table that's in Excel Online or Sharepoint. However, if you're here hoping to find an answer to a particular question, then the timestamps here on the right should lead you in the right direction. Though I'm building a specific example, you can use this knowledge to build an app that suits your own needs afterwards, or follow along the build process while substituting your own values. Anyway, let's begin. Have a quick overview of the finished app. Let's say I am a job seeker who wants to keep track of all of the jobs I've applied for and all of the incoming correspondence. So for this case, all of the companies I've interacted with are the dimensions table, and any and all interactions with them are the fact table. So if I click on this arrow, I can see the company, I can edit their details, and let's say I want to log something regarding to them. I'll click new log entry and go to this screen. Here are all of the interactions with them in timestamped order, and if I want to add a new one, then I can type something in, timestamp it, submit it, and it'll add it to the table, and all of this is reflected in the Excel or SharePoint list. So let's get started on building this from scratch. Okay, so let's take a look at the data we're going to use for this little sample app. I've got a couple of sample companies here in Excel, and I've got a couple of sample interactions with those companies. That company list is my dimension table, and these interactions are my fact table. If I take a closer look, I can see that at about 9 a.m. I sent a resume to Bullards, submitted resume over LinkedIn towards them, and that's me applying for their front-end developer position. And then about 20 minutes later, I get a LinkedIn message from Mer Media over LinkedIn. They sent it to me as an in-mail, and in-mail from that. So this is just a list of all the interactions I've had with this fake companies. So, as far as Power Apps is concerned, as long as you have an Excel sheet formatted as a table or a SharePoint list, it treats both those sets of data exactly the same. But the caveat for Excel is that the data must be formatted as table. Note that my top row here is the header row, and the rest of these are down here. If I look at this is the exact same data, but not in a table format. You can see that the top row looks formatted the same as the rows below it. But it's an easy fix. All you have to do is Home tab, Tables group, Format as Table, pick a style you like where the top row is different than the bottom rows. I'm going to choose this one. Note that it's going to hit A1 through G9, and make sure my table has headers is checked, and then this looks exactly like the second table. So now we're going to import this into Power Apps. Since this is an Excel document, I need to make sure it is closed before I import it, otherwise Power Apps is going to error out and say that the document is locked for opening. So let's close this out and head over to Power App. Okay, so let's start making this application. I can start from a bunch of pre-done apps that start from data, but just so we know exactly what's going on, I'm going to start from a blank app in tablet layout. So I'm going to click that. It's going to make me a blank canvas. And just so it's easy on the eyes, I'm going to change the theme to forest. You don't have to change the theme, I just like it a little darker. So, over here we have our tree view, which is all of the components. For this app, I'm going to have two screens. I'm going to have a company screen, and I'm going to have a log transaction screen. So this one, I'm going to rename it. Okay, so the plan is I'm going to put a gallery here for all of the companies I have logged, and a form here to show me the specific information for that company. And then on the next screen, it'll let me log a transaction for that company. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a gallery. I'm going to either do it in this plus menu or up here from the insert menu. Going to add a vertical gallery right here, and it starts off with some lorem ipsum text. What I want is to point this data source to the dimension table from my Excel Online. So we'll go to data source, and I'm going to connect an Excel document from my OneDrive, or you can connect a SharePoint list. Process is kind of the same, and they'll give you the same data. So I'm going to connect to my personal OneDrive, where the Excel document is. It's called the Dummy Job Tracker. It does not import the sheet names, but table 1 is the first sheet, 2 is the second sheet, and table 3 is the third sheet. So this one is my first one, so I'm going to connect to that. And now in a moment, it's going to show that there are the 3 companies on that list, but it's displaying their labels in a weird order. So to change that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to Tree View, click on the main gallery. I'm going to change its layout to just title and subtitle. And then if I want to edit their fields, I go to the fields, edit, and then I want the subtitle to be what their department is, and I want the title to be their name. So I'm going to change title 2 to the company name. There we go. Close that out. I'm going to put this down here, and then I'm going to add a form that lets me pick one and edit them. So next I'm going to, from the insert menu, I'm going to add a form and an edit form. Edit forms let you type in their text fields, while a display form only lets you see it and you can't edit it. So to do this, this one's also going to be tied to the same source. So data source, still going to be table 1, pick that, and then nothing's going to show up yet, but all I have to do is click edit fields, add a field, and I want to be able to change all of them, so I'm going to select all of the fields, click add, and then they will show up. And then from right here, I can order them how I want. I want the name on top, and the phone at the bottom, and the industry right next to the name. And I just want these all to be layered in one single row. So now, if I hold Alt and click on the arrow, it's like I'm clicking on it in the app. Click that, and just one more thing. In the form itself, the data source is the table, but the item needs to be whatever I've selected in the gallery. So to do that, this one's named Gallery 1, so I'm going to pick Gallery 1 and do selected, and that's going to select the currently selected member. So if I alt-click Dragon Bar, then Dragon Bar shows up. So that's for the simple stuff. Now let's move on to adding just a couple more elements to the search field. What I'd like to be able to do is, if I have lots of companies, I want to be able to filter them down a little bit. So I'm going to shorten this. I'm going to add a search box above it. So to do that, I'm in the Insert, Input, and let's do a text input. Put it right there. And then just alter it a little bit. I'm going to change the default on this to nothing. So just an empty set of quotes. And the hint text, I'm just going to say search. And this doesn't have to do anything special, but I will change the data source on this so that this filters out. So to change that out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this, and with items selected or the date or the items here, I'm going to wrap this table 1 source in a filter, so it filters by whatever's currently typed up here. So what I'm going to do is we're going to call filter. To refer to a data source, let's just wrap that in brackets. First argument is the source you want to affect, and the second argument is the logical test to determine what goes in there, the name of the company. So I'm going to do text input to in name. So what that's going to do, and then I want the text value of that, so it's text. So whatever's currently written here, I'm going to compare it to whatever is the name over here. We interrupt the current video for a detailed explanation of what PassMe just did. So in the filter function, the second argument right here is how you want to filter it. So this argument means I want to take the current value of what is in this search bar. So that is what textinput2.text means. Textinput2 is the name of this search bar that you can see right here. That's just the name of the bar. In name in this case is the name column from the Excel datasheet, which is right over here. So the name column is what got imported from the sheet. So if I want to search by industry instead, then I could do in industry instead of that. And the reason I'm interrupting is because in the clip you're seeing now, I use the starts with function, which would only search by the start of whatever's written here instead of anywhere in it, and that was a big no-no for this project. So I just wanted to interrupt that real quick and return to the rest of the video. So if I were to run this app and type in bull, then only bull arts is returned. Cleared that out and close that. So now I have this. So let's talk about logging and showing transactions. We're going to do that in a new screen. Do a new screen. Let's make it blank. I'm going to call this log screen. And then for this log screen, what I want is the company details here, the transaction to log here, and a table of the most recent transactions from that company right here so I can keep an eye on it. So let's first add the company that it's coming from. So I'm going to do a form, an edit form. Let's shorten it up a little bit. Move it down here. And then I'm going to connect this one to table 1 again. And then, now that it's connected, I'm going to add all the fields one more time. But first I have to click table 1 and then edit fields, add all the fields. And we'll just leave this the same way. So I want this form to be referencing the company table, but I only want the current one I have selected to populate this form. So we'll go back to the tree view, uncollapse both of these. So for the data in this form, the data source is table 1, but I want the single item to be whatever I currently have selected in this previous gallery. So gallery 1 dot selected, and the last thing I clicked was the Bull Arts company. So that's who I'm going to show. Now let's put a table at the bottom. So now I'm going to add a data table. Just put it down here because there's a lot of columns. The data source on this one, I'm going to bring in the fact table this time. So we're going to connect a second instance of the Excel table, target table 2. We're going to add it, we're going to edit the fields, and then add all of the fields. And real quick, I'm going to organize these and make some of the columns wider. So now that this is edited, I want to make it so the table only shows transactions related to the currently selected company. So I'm just going to alter the data source one last time. Click on the entire table over here. Go to Advanced, and then Items is selected, and I'm going to paste in a slightly larger formula over this and format the text. So basically what I'm doing here is I'm sorting these by the date column. I'm filtering table 2, where the company is the currently selected company right here, and then I'm organizing them by descending timestamp so that the most recent timestamp appears on top. So that's how it is for the table. So now let's finally add a transaction for logging a new one. Let's add one final form here. It's going to be a form, edit form, put it over here. And then the data source is going to be the fact table one last time. Edit the fields. And we're going to put all of the fields. Then we're going to make them 2-columned. And they're a little out of order, but we can fix that a little later. So now we want to be able to fill this out and log it as a new entry in this row. So now that I finished filling out the defaults, I want to be able to submit this as a new row. In order to submit a new row, all you have to do is make something called the submit form function, which I'm just going to tie to a button for this simplicity. So we'll go to the insert menu. I'm going to insert a button. I'm just going to put it over here. And then to invoke its functionality, I'm going to click on its onSelect function. Right now it's set to false, but I want it to submit a form. I'm going to do submit form, and then you're going to give it the name of the form you want to submit, which is form 3 in this case. So when submit form is called, it's going to submit a new row to whatever data source it's linked to, which is table 2 of my Excel sheet. And then we're just going to change the text of the button to submit. So when I run this, before I run it, there's one quick thing we have to do before that. So we're going to go back to, we need to call the new form function first before we can submit one in order to make it display. So we're going to go back to the first screen, and I want to add a button that lets me log a brand new transaction. So we're going to make a new button. The text is going to say new log entry, and then this button's going to do two things back to back. In order to do two functions separate back to back, you just separate them with semicolons. So for the onSelect function, what I'm going to do is I want to go from this screen to the log screen, and to navigate between screens you just call the navigate function. And I want to navigate to the log screen. Then semicolon to end this function, and I want to make a new form 3 so it knows to insert it into the row. So we're going to do new form and make a new form 3 and semicolon just for that. So when I run this app, click on new log entry. It's going to take me to Bullart since I have it selected, fill out the defaults, and here's the last transactions I got from them, and it is currently 2:28 p.m., which it defaulted. Let's just add a note saying this is a test, and submit. This will go blank, but now you can see that that is a brand new entry in there. So a quick jump cut. I just submitted this, and if I look back at my original document, you can see that the test row got added, and Power Apps has added a primary key column over here, but you can see that it is connected here by adding this when I call submit form, so that's pretty neat. So let's just clean this up a little bit and we will be done with this sample app. So you noticed just a moment ago that when I hit submit, this totally blanked out, and I don't really want it to do that. I want to be able to log multiple next to it. So for the submit function, I'm just going to make it so after it submits, it automatically makes a new form. So once it submits, it'll clear it out and put the defaults back on there and be able to add that there. And then while we're at it, I want to be able to go back to the first screen in case I need to pick a new company. So let's just add a home button. I go to Insert. This time I want to do a home icon. So let's pick Icons, scroll down to the little home house icon. Let's just do newspaper. And then its onSelect function is just going to be to navigate back to the first screen. Navigate back to the company screen. So now we'll go back to the company screen, new log entry, so everything there should be good, but for one last thing, let's say I want to either add a new company or change an existing one. But want to change an existing one, then I'm still going to call the same submit form, but it's already populated with this existing entry. So I just need to add a brand new submit button to this. So let's just add a button, put it down here. The text in this one will just be and then we just have to submit this form 1. So if I want to change Bull Arts to Bull Artsy, click Edit Company, and now it's logged as Bull Artsy. So when you select something, you can edit it, but when you call new form, it's going to append a new one, whereas if you do an existing one, it'll edit that. And then if I just want to add a new company, let's do one final button right here. And then that, call this new company, and the onSelect will be called new form one more time. And it'll be a new form 1. That way, when I click on it, it'll clear that out, and then after that I click Edit Company, and it'll add it as a brand new entry. So that's how simple it is to make a fact dimension based app in Power Apps. So let's just clean this up a little bit and we will be done with this sample app. So you noticed just a moment ago that when I hit submit, this totally blanked out, and I don't really want it to do that. I want to be able to log multiple next to it. So for the submit function, I'm just going to make it so after it submits, it automatically makes a new form. So once it submits, it'll clear it out and put the defaults back on there and be able to add that there. And then while we're at it, I want to be able to go back to the first screen in case I need to pick a new company. So let's just add a home button. I go to Insert. This time I want to do a home icon. So let's pick Icons, scroll down to the little home house icon. Wherever it is. Let's just do newspaper. And then its onSelect function is just going to be to navigate back to the first screen. Navigate back to the company screen. So now we'll go back to the company screen, new log entry, so everything there should be good, but for one last thing, let's say I want to either add a new company or change an existing one. But want to change an existing one, then I'm still going to call the same submit form, but it's already populated with this existing entry. So I just need to add a brand new submit button to this. So let's just add a button, put it down here. The text in this one will just be and then we just have to submit this Form 1. So if I want to change Bull Arts to Bull Artsy, click Edit Company, and now it's logged as Bull Artsy. So when you select something, you can edit it, but when you call new form, it's going to append a new one, whereas if you do an existing one, it'll edit that. And then if I just want to add a new company, let's do one final button right here. And then that, call this new company, and the on select will be called new form one more time. And it'll be a new form 1. That way, when I click on it, it'll clear that out, and then after that I click Edit Company, and it'll add it as a brand new entry. Me from the future once again. A slight bug came up, but it's a quick fix. I noticed that if you make a new company, then if you try to click on one of these arrows to refill it, it won't do it because it's a new form. It's a quick fix though. All we have to do is go into the gallery control itself, and then you'll see all the elements that make up a gallery. I'm going to click the next arrow, and all you have to do is add edit form to the end of select parent as a separate function. That way it'll reflect that you've selected a new stuff. So that's all there is to it. I hope you guys enjoy making transactional apps like this.